Hey folks, in the narrative lectionary reading for this upcoming Sunday, it's from Genesis 32 and it's verses 9 through 13 as well as verses 22 through 30. Jacob is about to return home, and he knows that in returning home he's going to encounter his brother Esau, and he's super worried about that encounter. He knows that the last time that he saw his brother, not only had he already stole his inheritance, but he had just stolen the blessing from his father on his father's deathbed. Esau was livid, and Jacob's mom had to help him escape so that Esau didn't kill him. This is an intense relationship problem, and Jacob didn't handle it well last time. And so as he's approaching home, he's praying to God, and he's saying, God, I don't deserve help, but I need your help. I need it so bad because I'm afraid my brother is going to kill me. I'm afraid that this isn't going to work out. And he talks about how when he crossed this river, he had nothing. He crossed the river last time with his staff in his hand and the clothes on his back, and that was it. He was running for his life. And now he's crossing back to return home with his wives and his great wealth, to the point where he had to separate into two parties because they were too large for the flocks and herds to be able to live off of the land with them traveling together. And so he realizes that God has blessed him the entire time that he's been gone, but he also realizes that he didn't deserve it at all. And so he's praying for God's help. And as he approaches, he separates his company more and more. He gets it so that it's just him and his direct family. And then he separates them too, so that he's alone on one side of the river. And that night, while he's alone, he continues to struggle. And the scriptures tell us that he began to wrestle with someone, and that this wrestling went on and on through the night, but he refused to let the other person go without a blessing. And that was when the other person or entity changed Jacob's name forever and said, from now on you'll be known as Israel rather than Jacob. See, Jacob meant heel. It's a trickster. It's almost when he shared his name, he was sharing the fact that he's just a burden on society. He was talking about how he was always a trickster and always underhanded. And the person that he wrestled with said, you're not going to be known as that anymore, because you've not just wrestled with man, you've wrestled with God. And so from that point on, he was known as Israel. Israel means wrestling with God. The people of Israel are the chosen people. Those who wrestle with God are the chosen people. We inherited a piece of that with Christ. As we got grafted into the tree, Christians became people that wrestled with God. And sometimes we forget about that, and we forget that a part of our relationship is supposed to be this wrestling, this trying to figure out the divine. And we get stuck into patterns of thinking that we know all of the answers. But I don't want to get too distracted with that. I really want to focus on this idea of relationship. So he's struggling with this relationship that he has with his brother, and reconciliation is just weighing heavy on his heart. And it's in that moment that he's alone that he begins to wrestle with this. And so there's a metaphorical side of this story too, where alone he wrestles with God. He wrestles with, how am I supposed to get reconciliation with my brother? Things were terrible. He was going to kill me before I left. And reconciliation is like that. Reconciliation is hard work, and it will feel like wrestling with God. The story of Jacob is all about helping us to understand that reconciliation is possible and that we're an ongoing work. Because Jacob didn't make things work after that first encounter with his brother. He continued to struggle with being a heel, with being a jerk. But over time, he changed his nature, or God changed his nature, and he became Israel, one who wrestles with God. And I want you to know that if you have someone that you need to seek reconciliation with, that just like God will help Jacob and wrestled with him to help him get to a place where he could do it, God will help you too. And it may come in the form of wrestling and twisting your arm to have a conversation that would otherwise be hard. But that's a part of making us Israel, making us those who wrestle with God. I hope you enjoyed the narrative lectionary reading for this week. I loved it. This is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. I look forward to reading a little bit more about Jacob and talking more about it. Talk to you soon.